Hello, everybody. This is David. This is my first Yoyo review. I'm making this review. I've been thinking about making reviews for a while because of how I feel like at the moment Yoyo reviews are in a very poor state, and everything I said about every Yoyo and every review is purely positive. I know there's a variety of factors at play when people do that, but I guess my goal here is to make something honest that'll actually inform you in your purchase and think, is this going to be a good yo-yo or not? And I figured, what would be better to start with than the much hyped Turning Point Mustang Super Rough Blast Edition. Okay, one more thing before I start, which is I'm recording outside. It's the only place I get some decent lighting for this, so you might hear some ambient sounds, but it shouldn't be too bad. So I'll start by saying the retail on this yo-yo and just talk about like the packaging and presentation of it. I guess the presentation is like about as good as it gets for a yo-yo. You know, you got your box plus bag plus all these extra goodies. It also has a string, which I already used, but this is to be expected. Like I guess this isn't really even anything special considering you're paying for a yo-yo that retails at about 50,000 yen or about 450 USD at the moment, which would be on Rewind, which is where you'll buy it. This yo-yo most likely, if you're not in Japan, is around $470. So including like shipping, like FedEx, $25 probably. Yeah, this is $500 yo-yo basically. And I guess we'll answer the question, like, is it worth it? Okay, so the next thing I will talk about will be like the specs and also like the general just machining quality and finish. So the specs for this yo-yo are very average, which I don't think is a bad thing, which is a 56mm diameter by 42.5mm width by a 66g weight. That's all just middle of the road for like a wing shape or like modified V-shape yo-yo. Though, and that's fine. I think basically everybody would like a 56mm yo-yo. So, and this seems like a sort of like flagship titanium in general. So I think that's a good thing. Also, as to the weight is very misleading. So I guess people read too much into weights in general, especially since titanium yo-yos could have thinner walls, so they'll play lighter than their same weight aluminum counterparts, which are like what people are used to basing weights off of. Also, turning points in general. Honestly, I don't know enough about yo-yo design to say why this is the case for turning points in general, but they always play like lighter than their specs would entail. I've never played a turning point that I would say plays heavier than its weight, and this is no exception. Despite being 66 grams, this thing plays extremely nimbly. In fact, I was quite put off at first because I expected it, you know, based off the name alone, the Mustang, and the fact that it was used by Takeshi, powering through all of these powerful tech tricks. I figured it'd have like a lot more spin power, but in fact it's actually a quite delicate yo-yo. More on this later on the string section. As to the machining quality, I mean, this is as smooth as a titanium yo-yo will get, basically. Nearly dead smooth. People say dead smooth, and I would say so. Even if this was an aluminum, like a G squared or something, even I'd be like, damn, this is smooth. And and that's reflected in the price. You know, titanium yo-yos have a very high B grade rate, especially if you're not willing to put up with any vibe at all in your run, such as with this yo-yo. That'll really just make your prices astronomical, which is part of why this yo-yo is costed so high, especially since it's not even disclosed where it's made, so possibly made in China as well, despite a previous Turning Point being expensive, claiming because they're made in Japan. But that's another story I'm not going to get into. Also, last note before my on the string section will be on the finish, the Super Rough Blast. So at first, it was like sawing through strings basically, but it's broken in now. I'd say to where it's not too rough on strings. I think it's a very nice finish. I really like blasted finishes. If you like blasted finishes, you'll love how this feels. It just feels really nice on the fingers, really nice to grind. It looks cool and reflective in the light. Though the problem is it's still a little tough on strings. Like, as for me, I'm currently using like Sochi T string or Sochi XL string mostly. And I tend to change strings when they're still pretty fresh. But if you're someone who will play like a bulk string for like 2 weeks, this finish is going to be really bad for you, because it will inevitably fray in the catch zone even once it's been broken in a bit. And I don't want to take denim to it because I don't want to hurt the trade value. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're someone who uses like zip line or like expensive poly strings as well. That could be a big issue for the super rough blast. But you might be able to sand it out. But I've even noticed fraying like towards the middle of the yo-yo from hitting the sides. But I think it'll get better with play as well. And I think it's worth the trade-off for me personally of having such a nice finish. Okay, now for the on the string portion, where I will talk about how this yo-yo plays. I might be a little like slow, especially on my play right now, because I'm not used to playing and talking like this, nor am I used to really doing like extended tricks like this on camera. So, but this yo-yo did not play at all how I really expected, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But just keep in mind that if you're thinking like Mustang, like the horse or the car, really like superpower on your spin, that's not really how this thing plays. Not to say like it isn't, it's quite powerful actually relative to like how nimble it is on the string, but like in general, if you're thinking of like a competition tech yo-yo, like powering through these big Takeshi slack combos, it's not like that. In fact, when I first played this yo-yo, I was kind of surprised at how weak the spin power was, and because, you know, the infamous Takeshi freestyle 90 seconds with no return, like world semifinal. But, and you may be thinking like, why is there such little spin power? And well, that is mainly like a testament to his skill. I could see why this yo-yo is actually good at playing like for an extended amount of time, not necessarily getting the longest sleeper, but getting like the longest period of viable play, in the sense that this yo-yo performs very well at low RPM. Meaning that like this is like basically the first yo-yo I've ever played where like I'll do tricks, like I'll combo until the spin dies just about. Man, I'm noticing my play is really not looking good right now while I'm talking, but it's okay. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm using a nearly unshortened Sochi XL string. I'd say this yo-yo is for the tech player only. So with this nimble light on the string play in mind, it basically could only benefit you if you're just doing like you're an advanced tech player, which I'm not really, doing like extremely intricate stuff. Anything else, like having less control but more like sleep, like more RPM, would be beneficial. Or if you're trying to do like more like the kind of tricks you'd want to do on a Dropner, I wouldn't recommend this yo-yo at all. Like, it's not, I mean, I'm not even going to show my horizontal right now, I'm not great at it, but this yo-yo is like not competition level in horizontal, I think. So this is for like advanced like slack players, stuff like that. Okay. Another thing to note is that as a result, like this yo-yo is pretty center weighted, I think, more so than I expected it to be. So it actually regens pretty well, which is like surprising for like a V-shaped titanium, you know. But I think that's pretty cool how it's like, it's very, I describe how this yo-yo plays as like balanced. It's a very balanced yo-yo, great for like everyday play, not necessarily the competition player, besides a very narrow type of trick, which is basically like these like super slacky intricate stuff. But that's not most people. But I think that doesn't detract from this yo-yo. It just means that it's not like a competition yo-yo. Like, this yo-yo won't outperform a bimetal at all. I mean, that's fine. Titanium isn't meant to do that in general. I think this is just like a everyday, do tricks for fun on, appreciate how high quality, how well machined it is, and like it could do any type of trick as well. So I don't think, but for me personally, I had higher expectations in terms of spin power, I think, where I wish this yo-yo was one of two things, which would be either smaller, like when I play like something like that's like delicate and not like necessarily prioritizing stability, like, so it's like something meant for tech, I would wish it was like 54 millimeters or 55 millimeters. I think that would make a lot more sense for it to play like this, rather than like a 56 millimeter yo-yo is like not often like this. Supposed to be like your tech machine. Not that anything can't do anything, but you know. Or I wish it was heavier or like have more rim weight, which is why I'm interested in trying the Mustang ES. I think I'm gonna pick one up. So I'm trying to either trade this one or buy one basically for a Mustang ES. I think I like that better, and you probably would too if you're like a tech player, which I am, but I'm not like a great tech player. So like the addition of that spin power would actually like enable more tricks, versus the benefit of the insane control you get from this yo-yo is like only for like the insane player, you know. So that just begs the final question: is this yo-yo worth it? And I mean, obviously, like, no yo-yo is worth this amount of money. Let's be real here. If you want to talk about monetary value, just buy the Yo-Yo Factory, you know. But if you're someone who wants to pay for that premium performance, like, you know, like, especially like back in like 2014, spending the money on a Dropner was actually like a competitive edge, or like before that, spending money on a Sleipner was actually like an advantage. But this yo-yo isn't like that. It's like, do you want your everyday play to be just like on something that's like ridiculously premium, is when you should get this. Which, I mean, I would prefer my titanium money to be parked in something that I think is a little more like interesting to play, or like at least performs a little better. But there's still a yo-yo have a great time playing, and it has definitely grown on me a lot. And you know, I'm not sure if I'm going to sell it or trade it or not at the moment, except for another, like a Mustang ES, which I think I would definitely prefer.